Hello and welcome into HQ Spotlight alongside Haley Sutton. I'm Tiffany Blackman, and you know, matchmaking is always fun. Always. It's even more fun when you get to put the NFL spin on it.
You know, I love how we're just pushing past February, and that was supposed to be the month of love. The NFL has such pick-me energy, Tiffany. Like, we're over here trying to focus on basketball season. We're pushing into golf season, and yet here we are talking NFL. So obviously we'll get to all of the golf and the basketball in just a bit. But with free agency right around the corner, we're actually going to pick up the conversation with the NFL. And as Tiffany mentioned, a little matchmaking along the way. Last year, the NFC East saw its first repeat champion in over 2 decades when the Eagles ran it back to clinch the title. However, that was the only hardware that came out of this division. It went from like the NFC Beast to the NFC Least, I would say. So safe to say a bit of an overhaul is underway this offseason. So let's bring in our NFL matchmakers to sort of shake things up as we get ready to get into free agency. We've got Ryan Wilson and John Breech joining us here. Guys, I mentioned it. We're going to play a little matchmaking here in each of the divisions. We're starting in the NFC East, and we are starting with the defending champs, as much as it pains me to say that, the Philadelphia Eagles. So Ryan Wilson, obviously I'll start with you here. The conversation coming out of Philadelphia this offseason has been all about A.J. Brown, but there are other things that need to be addressed here. So give us your best offseason acquisition here when it comes to Philly.
Hey guys, good to see you as always. Even if we're not in the week of Valentine, we can still have a little matchmaking fun here. So let's start with those Eagles that you don't want to talk about, Haley. And look, they have needs on defense in the secondary in particular, and obviously they can address those in the draft. They have a little bit of cap space, not a lot. I had them go with Elijah Vera-Tucker, the guard for the Jets, the former first-round pick, who, when is on the field, has been absolutely lights out electric. It's a big if, though, because he has been banged up and injured. Now, Eagles fans might point out that, hey, Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson, the guys that he may eventually replace, also have struggled with health. Do we want another issue with that? And I understand that, but that's why you would get him on the relative cheap. It wouldn't be one of these big money deals for a high-end free agent, even though he plays like a high-end free agent when he's healthy. It also frees you up to do other things in the draft if you want to address the safety or the cornerback position or even the edge rush position, which is also a huge need. And as we know, edge rushers are way more expensive than offensive linemen coming off an injury-filled season.
All right, guys, don't hate me. I'm going to change the theme here. More St. Patrick's Day related. Who should the Eagles give their pot of gold to? How about that? You know what? I like that, Ryan. The Eagles are going to need some help on offense. And I'm going to go with a tight end in Cade Otton. You look at the players in Philadelphia who are set to be free agents this year. Their top 3 tight ends are about to hit free agency. We're talking about Dallas Goedert, Grant Calcaterra, Kylan Granson. So if you are Philadelphia, you have to find a tight end in free agency. And because of the way they run their offense, you don't just want a guy who can catch passes. You need a guy who can also block. And so that's why Cade Otton should be a good fit for the Eagles offense. We've seen what he's done in Tampa Bay. He has been productive during his time with the Buccaneers, and I think he could go into Philadelphia and contribute right away.
I love that. I also love the pot of gold theme that you're going with, John Breech. I personally took my Valentine's Day decorations down this morning and actually put out the pot of gold and all of the St. Patrick's Day decorations. So you and me, we're right here. Let's move on and talk about my Dallas Cowboys, guys. Another obvious here. We know that the defense has been what has just been needing some work, to say the least. I'll keep it PG here on HQ Spotlight. Breech, I'm interested, though. You're looking at Trey Hendrickson as a free agent move for Dallas. Why should that excite me?
Yeah, let's do it, Haley. This is the biggest pass rusher in free agency. You're getting the best guy available. That's why it should excite you. I know that Jerry Jones didn't want to pay Micah Parsons, so he shipped him off to Green Bay. Trey Hendrickson is not going to be paid Micah Parsons money, but if you're the Cowboys and you want to make a statement, you have a guy in Trey Hendrickson who led the NFL in sacks in 2024, dealt with injuries in 2025 last season, so a little bit different. Still got 4.5 sacks, and even though he missed 10 games. But if you are looking for the premier pass rusher on the market, it is Trey Hendrickson. And you look at what this defense needs, it is a pass rusher. We're talking about a Cowboys defense that gave up the most passing yards in the NFL. One way to fix that problem is to get after the quarterback. Not many people have done that better than Trey Hendrickson over the past couple years, so probably not what you want to pay for somebody who's 30, 31 years old, early 30s. But the Cowboys should be desperate to add someone right now, and there aren't many better out there than Trey Hendrickson.
Breech, I completely agree that there aren't many better, but checks notes. The Cowboys are $56 million over the cap. So unless Trey Henderson's going to take a Cincinnati Bengals deal, there's going to have to be some math done to get him there. And we know you can push the papers around and find ways to get those players there. But I'm going to take a little more cost-effective approach, Haley. We've talked about how good DeMarvion Overshown is when he's healthy. We've also talked about him struggling to stay healthy. I love the idea of getting a bargain at linebacker in Leo Chenal, who had a fantastic start to his career with the Kansas City Chiefs. And if you check Spot Track, which gives you market value estimations, we're talking $5 million a year for a starter linebacker who can stay on the field for all 3 downs and perhaps help out DeMarvion as he comes back from his latest injury. It also frees you up with those 2 first-round picks that you have, Haley, at 12 and 20. If there isn't a Sonny Styles there at 12, and there almost certainly won't be, you can address edge rusher, as Breech is talking about here with Trey Henderson, or secondary, which is also a huge need, and then get another player at pick 20 to help that defense. So Chenal solves a couple of problems. He does it cheaply as the Cowboys try to figure out how to get under the cap here over the next few weeks.
Man, I was just proud that they decided to finally give that franchise tag to George Pickens. We are moving hopefully in the right direction when it comes to doing deals with Jerry Jones. All right, let's move on to the Washington Commanders. Interesting, they've kind of been in our conversations on CBS. I spoke to Emory Hunt yesterday, and he likes the idea of bringing in a running back, maybe to supplement that running back room. But both of you guys are looking at the defense in this conversation. So, Breech, I'll come back to you. You like Odafe Oweh, who is actually a friend of the program here at CBS.
Yeah, you look at the Commanders' defense, like the Cowboys, like the Eagles, they all need pass rushing help. I mean, the NFC East, all these free agents just take a tour of the entire division and decide where they want to go. But you look at what Washington did last season. Like Dallas, they struggled to stop the pass. Again, one way to fix that, one quick, easy way, is to bring in someone who can sack the quarterback. And so when you look at who's about to hit free agency for the Commanders, you have Von Miller, who had a team-high 9 sacks. So a team that wasn't very good at sacking the quarterback last season is losing the guy who led the team in sacks. And also Bobby Wagner could be leaving. So you're looking at 2 of your top 5 sack guys. You bring in Odafe Oweh, who really emerged after he got traded to the Chargers, really came on. And so he is someone who could contribute in Dan Quinn's defense. And I think someone that the Commanders should take seriously.
Breech, Haley, I am shocked to learn that running back Emory Hunt thinks running back solves every problem for every team. That blows my ball-headed mind here. I'm with Breech, though. I love the way Breech is thinking about this with Odafe Oweh. You're not talking about a high-end pass rusher that's going to eat up a large chunk of the cap. You're talking about a guy who was coming to the scene relatively recently, even though they're 4 or 5 years into their NFL careers. And as Breech noted, Oweh balled out once he got to Jesse Mentor's defense in Los Angeles. I'm going to go along that similar vein. This young man was a former first-round pick as well. Started in Jacksonville and really didn't find his footing until he landed in New England last year, Calebon Chason. And in much the same way Oweh found his footing, Calebon was an absolute game wrecker off the edge, signed a 1-year deal, and he made himself a little money, as we like to say. But he's still going to be relatively cheap. He is probably going to get less than $10 million per year on the open market, and that's certainly well-deserved given the way he played. But it could be a bargain for a Commanders team that has a ton of cap space, and they could use that money elsewhere if they so choose, if they don't want to be locked up, for example, paying north of 30-year-old Trey Henderson for 3 or 4 years at a high salary. Calebon Chason or Odafe Oweh would make a ton of sense for them.
I didn't realize you were such a penny pincher in there, Ryan, telling these GMs how they should be saving their money here, building their rosters. Who would have thought? Let's wrap up our conversation, of course, with the New York Giants. With the good always comes the bad with that team, it feels like, so they need a lot. It was interesting, Ryan. I was looking at Malik Neighbors and just seeing where his recovery is. He shared some photos recently of him working back, but still some uncertainty about what that position will look like for New York. And so you're targeting a wide receiver here for the Giants. Yeah,
Haley, I was sort of surprised that I was pinching pennies as well, because I am not afraid to waste money on stupid things in my everyday life. But
let it go.
Yeah, that's me. Can you imagine me doing that 25 years ago as a person with hair and no gray?
Actually, I've got the visual right now in my head.
So let's continue to save the money for the Giants, and Malik Neighbors is a big part of what they want to do, and we've had conversations about them potentially taking a wide receiver at number 5 with that 5th overall pick, but they do have other needs. So Wan'Dale Robinson is going to get paid this offseason, and understandably so. Let's get a version of Wan'Dale that's much cheaper than Calvin Austin III. He's also an undersized wide receiver who can play outside, he can play in the slot, he has returnability, and he's going to come at a third of the price. Again, the Giants don't have a lot of wiggle room with their salary cap as is currently constituted, and they have a lot of things to fix. So if you want a player in the vein of Wan'Dale Robinson as a number 2 or number 3, when Malik gets back there healthy, when you get Cam Scatteraboo back, you have tight end Theo Johnson. The pieces are in place around Jackson Dart, and we saw Calvin Austin be an integral part of the wide receiving room with Kenny Pickett, of course, and then obviously with Aaron Rodgers last year. He's not a number 1, but that's not what he's advertised as. He's a number 2 or number 3 who can rip off big chunks down the field.
Yeah, this is a little bit crazy. Wilson is here shopping the bargain bin at Walmart. I'm at Williams-Sonoma ready to drop a fortune on anything I can find, because my recommendation for the Giants is Tyler Linderbaum, who is probably going to be the most expensive center in free agency. But the reason, if you're the Giants, you want to go after him because, one, this reunites Linderbaum with John Harbaugh. Harbaugh knows how good he is, know how important a great center is to your offense. And so if the Ravens are going to let a 3-time Pro Bowler get away, why not make a play for him? You don't see a player of this caliber hit free agency too often. It is not going to be cheap, but if you want to be good, it's not cheap. You got to pay top dollar. You can't be shopping in the bargain bin, Wilson. And so you look at the Giants offense. I do think a number 2 receiver would be huge. You get a center, and we know that in Baltimore, John Harbaugh kind of had that running offense. The Ravens had one of the top rushing attacks in every year since Lamar Jackson has become the starter. So you kind of want to try and do the same thing. You have Jackson Dart, Cam Scatteraboo. You get that rushing attack going. It opens things up for Malik Neighbors in that passing game, but it all starts on the offensive line, and that's why you want to go after a guy like Linderbaum.
I just got a text from my husband who is watching this at home, and he says you need to be more like Ryan Wilson and less like John Breech. So, Ryan, you must be doing something right, but I'm a big John Breech girl, just spending that money. Fellas, sit tight. We'll be back with you in just a minute, bringing that same energy. We'll see if Ryan's going to hold off on the pocketbook there or keep spending. In the meantime, here's a look at the odds to win the NFC East. No surprise, the Eagles have the shortest to repeat, but don't count out my Cowboys. They sit at plus 280, followed by the Commanders at plus 400 and the Giants at plus 650.